Hi, this is Ritik, your biology subject matter expert from memoneet. And today in this video, we will be discussing about the biodiversity and its conservation. So when I'm talking about a biodiversity, we know are a basic concepts that almost everybody are very familiar, right? Regarding what is biodiversity in our biosphere, we actually see an immense, various population. So, and they are existing correlation with each other, not only at a species level, but in all the level of biological organisms, right? Ranging, it could be from the macromolecule to it also could be sometimes it could be ranging from the micro molecules like within the cell to the biomass. So together we normally call them as biodiversity. So in terms of popularization or popularization by a sociobiologist, that is the Edward Wilson, he has described the combined biodiversity at all the level of biological organization. So, students, the most important of them are the genetic diversity, and we have the species diversity here, and the ecological diversity. So, coming to the genetic diversity, a single species might, okay, show the higher diversity at the genetic level over its distributional range and the genetic variation shown by this medical plant. Okay, that is Ruwolfe, which is growing in a different Himalayan ranges, might be in terms of the potency and concentration of the active chemical that the plant produce. And coming to its species diversity, the diversity at the species level. For example, if we go to the Western Ghats, we have a higher amphibian species diversity than when comparing with that with the Eastern Ghats. Then we have the ecological diversity, like in India, with its desert, rainforest, we have mangrove forest, we have wetlands and other things. So when you compare that with other countries, that its ecological diversity is different. So, according to the IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, so the total number of the plant and animal species which is described so far is slightly 1.5 million, but we have no clue exactly what it is and which is still to be discovered and described. So more than 70% of all the species recorded are animal, while including algae, fungi, then hydrophytes, gymnosperms, and as well as the angiosperms, comparing no more than 22% of the total. Among animal, insects are the most which are in rich, right? So insects, they are very rich. Then to that, molluscans are rich, then crustaceans and other animal groups. So here it stands at very first, then other animal groups, they stand at the next. So that comes in invertebrates. So whereas in plants, fungi, they comes in the larger, then angiosperms and so on, as you can see in the figure. Then in vertebrates also, we have fishes, which are of the huge population. Next, coming to it, it will be like, amphibia, reptiles, then birds, mammals, amphibians, like that. Right. So, although India has 2.4% of the world's island area, right? It shares a global species diversity, which is like around 8.1%. That is what makes our country one of the mega diversity country of the world, India, where 45 species of plants and twice as many of animals have been recorded in India itself. Then we may accept many, global estimations. 22% of total species have been recorded so far. Applying this Indian biodiversity figure, we can estimate that there are probably 1 lakh plants species and 3 lakh animal species yet which are to be discovered and described. So patterns of biodiversity, the diversity of plant and animals, it actually varies across the globe, like from country to country, region to region, and aligned with interesting patterns, and particularly like it could be its latitudinal gradient in diversity. And this phenomenon highlights that the species diversity described as we move away from the equatorial pole. So, for example, if it is north and it is south, as we keep on moving away from here, so we will be exploring different biodiversity and different house. It is a house for different diversity. Examples we have latitudinal grade, where Colombia, if you see, it approximately 1,400 bird species has been what they have estimated. When coming to New York, which is in the north, right? So there are 105 bird species, and in the Greenland, 71, which is like 56 species have been estimated. So in tropical forest, 10 times more vascular plant species have been estimated with its size, equal size of the Midwest of the USA. And the Amazon rainforest, which is very famous, it holds unparalleled biodiversity. That means more biodiversity has been identified and still yet to be discovered and described in the Amazon forest. Right now, it is 40,000 plant species, 3,000 fish species, 1.25 million invertebrates, that is, many insect species still which are to be undiscovered. So, reasons for higher diversity in the tropical is one is evolutionary time. The tropical has remained the relatively undisturbed for millions of years, unlike temperate region, which experience rapid changes and all, like glaciation. So this is one reason, or the stable climate. As the climate there is very stable, the foresting niche that is the species, that is the speciation and the enabling coexistence of the diverse species. Then higher solar energy and the productivity, that is, it has a great solar energy, the tropical, boosts the primary production, that is, the plants, indirectly supports the larger and more diversity range of organism. So there is a species and the area relationship. So one thing concept is the species and how the area they have a relationship with each other. So the species and area relationship describes how the species richness, which is subjected as yes, capital S, increases with the explored area, which is A, and there is an equation where log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. So where Z is the slope of the line, that is uh, regression coefficients, where C is the y-intercept and where S is the species richness and A is nothing but area. So as you can see in the what do you say that the figure. So as the area increases, the species richness also increases, right? So that is what it is describing. In general pattern, for most of the taxa, that is like if you take angiosperms, bat or birds, fishes, so species richness increases with area, but only up to certain limits. So they have to come back. So on the logarithm scale, so this relationship forms a straight line, that is log scale. So ranges of z's for most region of the taxonomical group where Z value typically ranges between zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.2, indicating a very moderate increase in the species richness with the area. So this is concerned to the region across like, plants, or it could be like California, birds, and the New York. So there you will see only slight increase in the species richness. Whereas large areas and the steeper slope that you are seeing here is like when an examining such large areas, Z value becomes steeper ranges from zero point 0.6 to 1.2. For example, we have the frugivorous birds and the mammals in the tropical forest. They are across the continuous where Z ranges 1.1, 1.15. So although we know very much about biodiversity, but we may not understand completely how the species richness contributes well-being of an ecosystem as well as yeah we know enough to realize that the rich biodiversity is not only essential for ecosystem health, but also implies for the way, very survival of the human races on this planet. So if there is any disturbance or disputes in the ecosystem, what might happen? That's the big question mark, right? So one is habitat loss is what we normally see. So in habitat loss, basically, we will be concentrating more about the important causes driving animals and plant to extinct. So the most dramatical examples of the habitat loss that comes is the tropical rainforest, which we have witnessed. So once overcoming more than 14% of the Earth's land surface, like it covers almost 14% of the Earth's land surface, and the rainforest now covers no more like 6%. That means it is getting decreased. So they have been destroyed very rapidly, fastly. By this time, uh, you know, the Amazon rainforest, it is so huge that it is actually called as very important, that is lung of the plants. Sorry, the lung of the planets, because most highest percentage of the ratio of the oxygen has been produced by this Amazon rainforest. And if we keep on cutting the trees and its grassland or whatever, if it is getting cleaned up, so that will leads to the uh, you know loss of the habitat. So, and it could also lead to the threat of the survival of many other species. When large habitats have been broken up into a smaller fragment due to the various human activities, mammals, birds requires larger territories, and certain animals will migrate, and that will affect badly on them also, and could lead to the population decline. Not only that, it could also form an human and animal conflict. Next is overpopulation. Humans have always been dependent on nature for food and all. So if the population is more, they will obviously going to exploit the natural resources. Like many species, they are getting extinct because of that, right? Passenger pigeon or some sea cow and all, because they have been overexploited by the human. And alien species invasion. So, when a new species has been introduced unintentionally or unknowingly for whatever the purpose, so that could also decline or threaten the existing or present living species also. So, for example, Nile perch was a species which was introduced in the lake, that is the Victoria in East Asian Africa, that led to the eventually existence of the other ecological, small species like 200 species of the chillide fish in that lake. So that is what happens, and this might cause an environmental damage due to the threat posed to the native species by invasive weed species, that is the new species, that is the carrot grass. So there are many examples of that. Then coming with the co-extinctions. So when a species become extinct, the plants, animals which are associated with those, like they become they once they are dependent on them, so they also get exist. So when a host fish species become extinct, so whatever its unique assemblies of parasites also meets the same fate. So the parasites which were dependent on that fish will also lead to the same fate. That is, they also get extinct. Another example in the case is the plant pollution, mutualism, where extinction of one invading leads to the extinction of the other. So, because of this, the conversation becomes very most important. So, coming to the biological conversation, conservation. So, one is through narrowly utilizing the arguments for, you know, conserving the biodiversity are obvious, like human derived countless direct economic benefits from nature, food, firewood. We are getting a lot of benefits from the ecology. It could be construction materials, industries, and products of medical importance. And 25% of the drug we are being currently using or selling in the market worldwide, that have been derived from the plants, and 25 species of the plants, 25,000 species of plants, which they contribute traditional medicines used by the native people around the world. And nobody knows like how much medicinally useful plants there have been in a tropical rainforest, and which are still need to be explored. So with increasing resources, exploring its molecular genetic species level diversity for production of economic importance, the native endurance with rich biodiversity can expand to reap enormous benefits. Then broadly utilization. So there is an argument says that the biodiversity plays a very important role, serving the natural provides. The fast drilling Amazon forest is estimated to produce through the photosynthesis that is 20% of the total oxygen in the earth atmosphere. Then pollution as another sub ecosystem provides through pollution layer like bees, bumblebees, birds, and bats. Like without which plants cannot give us fruit or seeds, right? That is pollination. Sorry. So, like if bees or birds or bats are not there, so pollination will not happen. Since the pollination is one mode of reproduction in most of the plants, so if pollination doesn't occur, so plants will also not grow. As a result, what happens that will also leads to extinct of certain species, decrease in oxygen production, and other benefits. So there are other benefits that we derive from nature or derive from the nature, that is aesthetic pleasure of walking in very rich woods, thick woods, watching the spring flowers that blossom. So these are one thing. Then the ethical argument of conserving the biodiversity is we own to millions of plants, animals, and micro species with who we share this planet. Like we have to coexist, and there is a relation between each other. So philosophically or spiritually, we need to realize that even species as an intrinsic value, even if it may or may not be in the current or any economic value to us. So how do we conserve them? So one is in situ conservation. So one is conflict between the development as well as conservation. So challenges is like balancing development with conservation is other economical challenge, and conserving the resources are limited compared to the number of species needed protection. Then global approach is very important. So in global approach, we need to be very careful that the biodiversity hotspot regions with higher species richness and higher endemic. So they have to be protected. Then coming to its biodiversity hotspot and the global hotspot. Initially 25 biodiversity hotspot have been identified. So 9 more were added. So totally it's like bringing the total that is 34 worldwide. So 3 hotspot covers less than 2% of Earth's land area, but host an extreme high number of species there. Then accelerated habit loss, like biodiversity hotspot are region of rapid habitat destruction, and the protection of those habits in their natural environment is very important. So Indian biodiversity hotspot, 3 global biodiversity hotspot. One is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, Indo, Burma, and Himalayan. So these are the 3, Indian biodiversity hotspot. And legal and culture conservation in India is very important. So we need to protect those areas. So we have 14 biodiversity reserves, 90 national park, 448 wildlife sanctuaries. Then scared groups in India has a tradition of nature protection through sacred groves. That is, we actually pray the forest, where forest and wildlife are venerated. Then these serves as refugee for rare and threatened species also. Then examples is like one is Meghalaya, Kashi, and Jayantha Hills. So where most of the refugees for many other rare plants. Then Rajasthan, Aravalli Hills, whereas in Western Ghats, Karnataka and Maharashtra, we have Western Ghats. Then Madhya Pradesh, we have Sarguja and Chanda and Bastar regions, so where the biodiversity is more. The next one is ex situ conservation, which is the last conservation actually. So this approach is where the threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habitat and they have been placed separately where they have been protected by giving the special care. Zoological parks, botanical gardens, and wildlife safaris that you are seeing are actually the executive conservation and maintaining in the zoological park, like wildlife and all, which are up at the edge of getting extinct and all. So that is what they one way of preserving them. So now gametes of threatened species can be preserved viable and fertile condition for a longer period of time. Okay, through different techniques. Eggs can be fertile in vitro and plants can be propagated using the tissue culture method. Then the seed of different genetic strains of commercially important plants can also be kept for the longer period of time in a seed bank. So biodiversity known for known political boundaries, and its conservation is therefore very responsible of all the nations. And the historic conservation on biological diversity, that is the Earth Summit, which was very first held on 1992 and in Rio de Janeiro, which is called upon all nations to take appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization and its benefit. So then the World Summit on Sustainable Development held on 2002, uh, okay, in the South Africa. So that has happened in the Johannesburg and 19 in 190 countries they pledged their commitment to achieve that within 2010, that is 2010, and a significant reduction in the current rate of the biodiversity loss at global has also been seen in 2010 result. It could be regional as well as in the local level. So this was all about the biodiversity and its conservation. So if you feel any doubts and all, you can contact me through the comment section or through the Telegram channel. And all the best. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you.